let's get to 5 balls to watch. I'm sorry, 5 Bulldogs. 5 Bulldogs to watch in the upcoming Tennessee-Georgia game. I want to see where Carson Beck falls on your list as let's count them down. Steve Hamer, former Vol, will join us to talk some Tennessee hoops here just shortly in a few minutes. But 5 Bulldogs to watch in the upcoming game, Tennessee-Georgia, as Georgia is just about a 9-point favorite. What do you got, Caleb?
So injury reports have thrown this for a loop. Georgia is in way worse shape than Tennessee. I can tell you that right now. But down at number 5 on the list is Dylan Bell. I kind of debated who to go with, Dave, for Georgia with their kind of offensive weapon. They really don't have many, in particular with Trevor Etienne questionable in this game and Anthony Evans questionable in this game. I don't know if Trevor Etienne's going to play. Maybe you have more insight on that, but I think they're going to go with Dylan Bell as their all-purpose player. He has over 100 rushing yards, over 400 receiving yards on the year. So I think that's the one player to look out for. But I mean, I'll say this, and this is the biggest difference between Georgia's team this year and last year. They don't really have a weapon on offense.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll say this too. I think their lack of leadership could crop up this weekend because they suddenly have 2 losses. Do some players say, I'd really like to save myself for the NFL because I don't think this is a championship team, even if they were to make a college football playoff. I think there have been times where Georgia's leadership has been better than even their elite players. But I don't think that's the case this year. I think in the leadership category, Tennessee's got the lead. Who's next in Bulldogs to watch?
All right. So up next in Bulldogs to watch, we are going to go to Chaz Chambliss. He is their jack linebacker. He's their edge rusher. I mean, do we really need to break down why Tennessee's offensive line and their pass protection has struggled this year? That's the guy they got to look out for the most. He could give them hell if they're not careful.
Can I tell you something?
What's up?
I'm not worried about Tennessee's offensive tackle play at all anymore.
Interesting. They still struggled in the first quarter of games, and then they get it together. Last week doesn't count. It was Mississippi State. That's the worst defense in the SEC.
Yeah, I think they're competent. I think they're, in fact, even good. So there you go. And I think Lance Hurd, slow-moving individual, as he was called by Ollie Lane earlier in the year, I think that was because he was unsure what to do and where to go. And I think that makes that can do 2 things for a player, and especially in basketball. It makes you look like you're not playing with effort, or it makes you look like you're not very athletic. And I think that's what it did to Lance Hurd. I think that uncertainty is gone now, and he knows what to do. Who's next? Bulldogs to watch.
Number 3 on my Bulldogs to watch, I have Carson Beck at number 3. You watch him just to see if he'll help you win the game more than anything. But it's kind of by default that he's number 3 as the quarterback. I mean, he's not the most important player in this game. It's what Tennessee can do against Georgia's defense largely, but I have Carson Beck in here just because he's Carson Beck in the quarterback.
I would have him number 1, and that's a cop-out because I don't think Georgia has playmakers, and I think it depends on him to thread the needle, which he's asked to do too often and which he doesn't do at a high level. So I would actually have him number 1. It's kind of a cop-out to say the quarterback in every game is the most important player, and I see what you're doing. But, yes, I think he could go out there and blow it for Georgia pretty easily. Who's next, Caleb?
Okay, so number 2, Nazir Stackhouse is number 2, the nose tackle for Georgia. Not a stats guy, but he does everything to draw up attention in the interior. Tennessee's had the best interior offensive line in the SEC this year. That's why they've been able to run the ball with Dylan Sampson. That's the matchup, Dave. Cooper Mays versus Nazir Stackhouse. That's literally the matchup to decide this game, I think. And I think Cooper Mays could actually win that, but Nazir Stackhouse is, I mean, he's the type of nose tackle that you would spend a first-round draft pick on, and he's never going to get you more than 10 tackles in a year, but he'll command so much attention that it doesn't.
You remember when Kirby Smart got the job? He was incredibly honest after looking at their roster. He said the biggest thing that we have to get, talking about Georgia, is we have to get the big athletic guys. And he was referring to the guys that they had at Alabama when he was the assistant coach there. This is that type of guy. Tennessee really doesn't have that type of guy. They thought it was going to be Elijah Simmons, and I'm just talking about a guy who takes up space. You don't really care if he gets a lot of sacks. They've got quick pass rushers in the interior that I think rely more on speed and quickness than they do just pure size and brute power. So, Caleb, this is the type of guy that Kirby Smart pointed to and said it can change you from being good, a 10-win football team like Mark Richt had, to a championship football team. I think that's a very astute pick by Caleb Calhoun.
Yeah, it's why Nick Saban and Kirby Smart prefer the 3-4. Because if you get a nose tackle who can command that attention, that's basically 2 defensive tackles. So effectively, you're running a 4-4 in that moment with 4 defensive backs or 5 defensive backs. You know what I'm like, whatever the nickel is. But yeah, it's basically like having an extra lineman up there.
I'll tell you what, this sounds insane-o, but I could make the argument that Vince Wilfork was every bit as important as Tom Brady in a lot of those Patriots championship runs.
Oh,
if you like to watch trench football, which I do, and I don't watch the ball a lot of the times, I know that sounds crazy, but that guy was taking up 3 dudes for I think 4 of those championship runs. All right, what are we down to? 2 or 1, Caleb?
We're down to number 1.
Okay, well, we're going to tease that as it's 5 Bulldogs to watch, brought to you by Double D Piping.
Double D Piping provides full-service fire protection on any scale. From residential homes to government facilities, we can assist any customer through design, fabrication, installation, inspection, and demonstration of fire suppression systems. With 30 years of service across 5 states and a full staff with over 40 years experience, our quality can't be beaten. Don't get caught watching what you could have prevented. Call Double D Piping, the absolute best.
The number 1 Bulldog to watch is...
All right, this is going to be controversial. So I'm going to address one player real quick because Dave, he's not on my list, but Georgia has their own Will Brooks, and it's Dan Jackson. A walk-on safety who is great at playing in position, who has a couple interceptions of the year.
Dad was a coach.
Was his dad a coach?
No, I don't know. Deceptively fast.
Yes, exactly. All those things.
Yes.
And I respect Dan Jackson, and I think he's done very good. But sometimes the most popular person on a team is the guy who's not starting every play, and people fall in love with him a little too much. And now Will Brooks is starting every play, so that's a little different. But Georgia fans think he's better than Malachi Starks. He's not better than Malachi Starks, guys. Y'all need to get that out of your head, okay? And Malachi Starks is still the best player on this defense, the best player on this team. And if Tennessee, and he's going to be crucial in a couple of ways. He's a great open field tackler. So if Dylan Sampson is going to make those big plays when he's running the ball, he's going to have to evade Malachi Starks in the secondary. But also, very importantly, Nico Iamaleava or Gaston Moore, whoever's playing, is going to have to account for him. I don't think he's going to bail out Gaston Moore with a bunch of pass interference penalties the way Mississippi State did last week. Because, Gaston Moore's 3D level chest was, if I underthrow this ball, I'll draw a pass interference. He wasn't thinking that, guys. But Malachi Starks is the most important player on their team.